We continue our exploration of little-known events in honor of Black History Month. Today, Manhattan Beach. Once a rare slice of sand for Jacksonville's Black residents, the former resort is now just a memory. You probably know it, in fact, as Hanna Park. I'm joined now by Dr. Yvonne Hicks, great-grandniece of Manhattan Beach's most prominent business owner, Mack Wilson. Hi, Dr. Hicks.
Good morning.
Good morning. Marsha Dean Phelts, author of a book on another legendary Black beach, American Beach on Amelia Island. Hi, Marsha.
Hello, Ann.
Chris Hoffman, mayor of Jacksonville Beach and executive director of the Beaches Museum. Hi, Chris.
Hi, good morning.
And Brittany Cohill, executive director of the Mandarin Museum and Historical Society. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, Ann.
Brittany, you've lived and breathed the history of Manhattan Beach since you began your research, I think in 2017. Why was this important story? Why did you want to tell this story?
Well, it began when I was in graduate school and I was doing a project for my public history course. And I was talking with a professor who, we were talking about Hanna Park, and he said something referencing Manhattan Beach. And I thought, well, I've lived in Northeast Florida at the time for 35 years and had never heard of Manhattan Beach. And so I just started doing some digging. And at the time I was at Beaches Museum. And so it dovetailed nicely with our mission over there. And so I made it, one of my major projects when I was in graduate school. And the more I learned about this story, the more I just truly felt that it needed to enjoy a more broad understanding and really enter the historical canon of Jacksonville's history.
Marsha Dean Phelts, you've written extensively about historic American Beach, which was also created for Blacks during segregation, but Manhattan Beach actually predates American Beach by about 3 decades. Is that right?
It certainly does. Manhattan Beach came about in 1899, 1900, when the railroad, when Henry Flagler built the railroad that extended from Pablo Beach to Mayport. And that's when Manhattan Beach was developed.
And the first of these kind of beaches where Black residents who weren't allowed in the Jim Crow South to go elsewhere were welcome.
Well, it was one of the first in Florida and in Northeast Florida. And yes, Blacks could go to beaches like Pablo Beach. They could go to Pablo Beach one day out of the week.
And Pablo
that
Beach
was
is
on
now
Pablo
Jacksonville
Beach is
Beach.
now Jacksonville Beach, and so Blacks could go to the beach one day. However, when you have your own area, your own recreation facilities, you can go whenever there is time, whenever you are able to go. And it's, the unique thing about these beaches is when you have your own, it's no such thing as, well, this is your day, this is your hour, these are the conditions. Blacks would go to Pablo Beach on Monday, or upon certain arrangements, we could have baptisms in the ocean, but these were arrangements done. And so with having Manhattan Beach, it was a whole new experience and a great, great pleasure that lasted until it was purposefully destroyed in 1938 by developers or development and expansion of Pablo and Neptune beaches. So,
And Dr. Yvonne Hicks, there isn't a lot of recorded and photographic history of Manhattan Beach, but this is a beach that was in your family. Your great-granduncle, Mack Wilson,
Yes.
owned a lot of property there. Tell us a little bit about what stories you heard as a child growing up and what you knew about Mack's businesses there at the beach.
Well, Mack Wilson was my great-grandmother's brother, and he had 4 sisters. And over time, most of them moved from Tallahassee, Monticello to Jacksonville, and we lived in La Villa. Mack Wilson was born in 1874, and he lived until 1944. And the many stories that I heard of about him span a long period of time because his sisters really admired him. He looked out for them. They all lived in a similar community. Actually, we could walk from one house to another, around the corner, down the street. But
This is in La Villa.
this is in La Villa,
Mhm.
and the streets are no more than 3 blocks apart. So I was 1 year old when he died, but the stories have spanned through the life of his sister, who lived to be 96 years old. And for example, they mentioned how Uncle Mack is how we refer to him, Uncle Mack. He was my grandmother's uncle. That he always had projects going on, and his projects included a renovation and a men's club in the community, and community meetings. But he was known for his job at the train station, at the depot. And he was the person who called the trains, their arrival and departure. And they spoke of him with such a wonderful attachment concerning how he called the planes and the trains, and you could hear his voice all the way down the all over the train station during the days, and how personable he was. He had a real way of he had charm, and he spoke well, and he was well read. That was one of the ways I saw the background for Mack Wilson, but also how much he ensured that his children were well educated. And he would take on extra jobs. For example, he worked as a guide for hunters, people who like the outdoors and who like the season for hunting in Florida. And he would, from time to time, take people out on hunting expeditions near and far, and usually in South Georgia and toward the middle of Florida.
And he was also a major entrepreneur. I mean, you see his name in these photos of Manhattan Beach, buildings that he owned. And what kind of properties did he have there? He rented rooms, bathing?
Yes, thank you for moving me to that, because that is really primary for him. He, through his cousin Capitola Wilson, acquired some property from Mr. Flagler. And on that property, he built a 3-story pavilion that was a place for entertainment and food, and for sleeping overnight, and also for renting bathing suits.
Tell me a little bit about that. I saw that he may have as many as 1,000 bathing suits that he had to rent.
That's on the. Sometimes it depends on who you're having the conversation with, but yes, absolutely. There's a picture, a classic picture of Mack's Place. That was the name of his pavilion there. And there was also there was one more. I believe the name was Mr. Middleton, also had a similar place on the beach. But Mack's Place would draw entertainers from, again, around the country during that days. I guess people who were, I guess they were scheduled to entertain at Mack's Place, and the word would be out, and people would come to Manhattan Beach. They would come on the train when necessary. If not, my grandmother said they would just drive down Beach Boulevard until you reach the river.
It was a 60-cent train ride at that time from downtown Jacksonville.
Quite possibly. I think that's what it's referred to in the book, in Marsha Dean's book. It's about 60 cents. And not only would groups would come, Sunday school groups would come. And on Sundays, it's interesting because people would dress up. They would be dressed in church clothes and hats, and families would come there and have picnics, and they'd bring their children and just enjoy evenings, afternoons, the sunshine together.
Marsha, you're nodding fervently over there.
Most definitely, people dressed to come to the beaches, though it was recreation and you would go in the water with your swimsuits. but you were certainly men, women, and children were dressed. And I have some gorgeous pictures of my mother-in-law, her mama, her aunt, her cousins at
Are those them right there?
yes, these are they
Here, let's see. I can try to hold them up for the.
at Manhattan Beach.
So we
And
broadcast this later on YouTube, and I'm going to try to just hold up some of those pictures so people
yes,
can see
those
them.
are from the 1920s. And my grandmother, my mom, my daddy, they all enjoyed Manhattan Beach during the extent of the time that it was in existence. And I call myself a beach lover. I am one because I was born to be on the beach, and that's where I fully, I live full time now.
Mhm.
And my mom and dad, it's good to talk to your family. I asked Mom how she met my daddy, and they were in a geometry class at Stanton, and they graduated in 1933. And you know what my mama told me? She told me that their first date was at Manhattan Beach. And I had a hard time believing my grandmama when I was about 10 years old, telling me how they got to Manhattan Beach. She talked about what Yvonne talked about. They came on the train. Well, at 10 years old, I didn't see any train tracks rolling down the side of Beach Boulevard, so I just figured Big Mama didn't know what she was talking about. No train could come to Manhattan Beach, but that was the only way they got to Manhattan Beach.
Mm-hmm.
That train is no longer there. Chris Hoffman, you're the mayor of Jacksonville Beach, and you are also working at the museum that houses a lot of this history, where people can find out more. Tell us a little bit about how Jacksonville Beach has come to kind of reckon with that part of its history and work to acknowledge the erasure of this particular Black beach.
Absolutely. I think this project, and when Brittany kind of brought it to me when she was at the Beaches Museum, it was just a real no-brainer for us to really pursue and pull the threads and see what we could find out and put together to bridge our community's past with its present. That's one of our goals at the Beaches Museum. So I think she took it from, for us, we had seen Manhattan Beach. It was a stop on the Florida East Coast Railroad line. It was mentioned, but there wasn't really a body of kind of collective work to talk about it. And I was really proud and impressed with how Brittany started to pull the strings on these stories. Was she went out and did community meetings. She went to places like Atlantic Beach. She worked with other archives around town, Jacksonville Historical Society, UNF. We got to form relationships, and I remember sitting down with Mr. E at the Voussoir, other people that had, unfortunately, we really lost those firsthand accounts due to time, but we had so many wonderful secondhand accounts and photos and stories that she could really start to put together. I remember every time she would come back from a presentation around town, she would have a new contact and someone that she could kind of talk to, get more information about. So really putting together the information in terms of just a body of work, articles, write-ups, and things like that. It then turned into a traveling exhibit. So we did one exhibit and started bringing that around different places. And then a second exhibit came about because of demand. So we had other organizations and venues that wanted to show the history of Manhattan Beach. And really, I didn't meet anybody that saw that exhibit for the first time that said, "Don't you mean American Beach?" And that was really something we wanted to really shine a light on Manhattan Beach and its impact and its role in our community and our community's history. So bringing out that exhibit has been really important in sharing the story of Manhattan Beach across our community. We also were able to put up a historic marker. So as you mentioned, where Manhattan Beach was previously, you would never know. There's no physical evidence of Manhattan Beach there. I know Brittany spent a lot of time out in Hanna Park working with the City of Jacksonville Park staff there to help identify locations where things were. And ultimately, we worked with them to put up a historic marker. So now you do see at least a marker showing where Manhattan Beach was. And probably one of the most the most proud moment that I had being with the Beaches Museum was being there for the unveiling when we had dozens and dozens of family members and descendants of Mack Wilson and others involved in Manhattan Beach there for the unveiling. It was a really special time, very bittersweet, because again, there was no physical evidence, but now there was a historic marker, and it was just a really special opportunity for us as the Beaches Museum to be part of that.
We're talking about the history of Manhattan Beach, which is the current site of Hanna Park. Have you heard about this Black-owned resort? If you've got personal stories or you have questions about it, please give us a call at 904-549-2937 or email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. You can also message us on social media and tag us on X at FCC On Air. Brittany, has there been any resistance that you've encountered? This is a difficult story insofar as it was a Black-owned beach. It was a resource and a refuge for African Americans. And it was essentially pushed out of existence by white developers and landowners. Is there resistance to sharing that story, to getting it out there?
I suspected that there may be, and surprisingly, I haven't encountered any. And even, on Facebook, when we share things or, when there's opportunity for public comment, I really didn't encounter any resistance. And I think that speaks to the fact that how valuable this history is and how it really sparked just curiosity on the part of the general public. And we always approached this project, I think, just with a spirit of love and discovery for our community and for everyone living around us. And there was never any agenda as far as approaching or telling this history. It was just all about the story, and it was all about the people, and it was all about the descendants. And so I think that helped with the reception. And so, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that, I really didn't receive any resistance throughout this process. And when we installed the historical marker, I've had so many people that have said, "Oh my goodness, this is so wonderful. I didn't know that Manhattan Beach was there. I had no idea." And it's at the historical markers at parking lot 8 in Hanna Park, which is their busiest beach access, which is just fantastic because more and more people are able to see this marker and understand the history. And I think Dr. Hicks would maybe concur with me. Throughout this process, we never really encountered any resistance.
I want to ask you about that, Dr. Hicks, because as Mayor Hoffman alluded to, it's a bittersweet recognition. How much is bitter and how much is sweet?
Well, certainly the fact that Uncle Mack took on a project like that. I mean, he too shared the vision for Black people having a place to go, a beach place where they could enjoy and not be harassed and not be confined to one day a week. But that's the proud part, and that he stuck with it until the end. That it was his vision, along with other prominent people in the community, the Lewises, for example, A.L. Lewis. They felt very strongly about the beach.
And A.L. Lewis, just for people who don't know, was Florida's first Black millionaire. He was the founder of the Afro-American Life Insurance Company, and he founded American Beach.
Yes. And many people who worked at the Afro were able to purchase property there, I believe. And the bittersweet is how it ended. He wanted to really see much more. Although he had many good years, prosperous years on the beach, and he was known for his work. I mean, his location up and down the coast. But I think he would have wanted to see it not being taken away from him in that manner.
Marsha.
I want to speak to some of the bitterness towards the end of Manhattan Beach. As I said, 1938 was its last year of existence. In 1935, the American Beach was established. However, you can see the decline of a community. You can see gentrification coming in. And as I look to the future, I see American Beach being urban renewal or urban removal. And that's what happened at Manhattan Beach. It was removal, not renewal. And the bitterness, I talked with Miss Lassane. I can't remember her first name because, as kids, miss this and miss that. And
Elaine Lassane.
There were two sisters. Elaine was one, and I, because I'm in Club 80, I won't remember the other sister's name.
Luther.
Luther?
Yes.
Okay, well, I talked with them. I have pictures of Luther on Manhattan Beach. I have pictures of Elaine on Manhattan Beach. However, in talking with her, she talked about the day her daddy came to Stanton School and got them out of class and drove them to the beach, and the tears that their daddy shed upon seeing the burned down structure as people, as urban removal is coming in, people are either you're dying because of age or you're moving on because of pressure. And so the last structure was Mr. Wilson's structure. And of course, during off-beach season, you close down, but you leave a caretaker there. And on this particular day, the structure was burned to ruins, as well as the caretaker and the dog that he had with him. And Miss Lassane just told me about the tears that flowed in 1938 when the last structure to remove the black community from the beach occurred. And so that's one of the bitter things. The sweet thing is to hear my mama and her sisters and her brothers tell me about going to Manhattan Beach. And Dr. Hicks, on the 2nd of October in 2021, when there was the dedication of Manhattan Beach, I got an opportunity to go to Hanna Park. And you know what I did? I picked up some sand, and I still have that sand in a bottle alongside. I have 4 pieces of sand. I have American Beach sand. I have sand from Manhattan Beach. I have sand from Egypt. And I have sand from Ghana, the beaches there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But yeah, bitter, sweet. And the sweet, we just have to
And
hold
that
on.
it was.
Hold on to the memories. And I'm just so grateful for all of the pictures that we have found. And I remember Maxie Wilson. He was a kid in school with us. I finished in 1961. Maxie finished in 60. But he was one handsome thing. And now to see the picture of his daddy, that is just, or his granddad, I don't know what his dad is. His granddaddy, it's great. And so, yeah, bitter and sweet.
And if I may, Marsha, when you were talking about that day, I want to mention Kenneth Lassane, who is Dr. Hicks's cousin, and he was also instrumental throughout this process of discovery and telling this story. And unfortunately, he passed away of June of last year. And when Dr. Hicks told me that, I found his obituary online, and through many, many tears, reading this obituary, it mentions that his proudest moment was when public officials recognized Manhattan Beach and installed the historical marker. And so it just reinforces why we did this project in the first place, because it was so meaningful. And I recall my first meeting with Dr. Hicks at the Jacksonville Public Library in February 2019. And you had tears in your eyes, and you said, this has been my family's story for so long, but we just didn't think anyone cared.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. That is so true. And I think that on a day like today, if my grandmother, his sister, could hear this conversation, and of course to know all about what Manhattan Beach was and how it came to be and how it ended, that would be a good story, a good book.
We've got a call. Curtis on the north side. Good morning, Curtis. Welcome to First Coast Connect.
Good morning, everyone. I want to just say thank you so much for this history, and my heart goes out and my respect for everyone that had a hand in restoring this history. Didn't know about it. It's beautiful. I will be there Saturday to the museum with my family. They will be off on Saturday. We will be there Saturday morning to check all this out. Thank you so much.
So just for clarification, the traveling exhibits, we have 2 on display right now, and one of them is at the Adele Grage Center in Atlantic Beach. So it is not on display at the Beaches Museum right now, although we are opening a new exhibit on Friday, which we encourage you to come and see. But the Manhattan Beach exhibit will be at the Adele Grage Center in Atlantic Beach, as well as at the Swisher Library at Jacksonville University. So there's information on the Beaches Museum website and our social media pages as far as the hours and how to access those. We wanted, the important thing about the traveling exhibits is to get out into the community and not rely on people being able to come to the Beaches Museum to see these exhibits. So we've had them out at libraries and different community centers throughout our area. And we're going to try to continue to do that as long as people are willing to put it on display, just to reach that many more people. So we do have it in those 2 locations for the month of February, as well as an event tomorrow at Adele Grage from 5 to 7. That it'll be a reception, and Brittany will be there speaking a little bit about Manhattan Beach, and we'll have a lot of people there to come and see the exhibit right there at the Adele Grage Center in Atlantic Beach.
And where is that center located?
The Adele Grage Center is right in Atlantic Beach in between Florida East Coast and...
I think the address is at 716 Ocean Boulevard.
716 Ocean Boulevard sounds great. It's the former City Hall, and it's actually right around the corner from where the Continental Hotel was located, which was Henry Flagler's hotel, and really part of the impetus in even the creation and foundation of Manhattan Beach. So that's why we want to be right there in that area for this exhibit and presentation.
Well, it's a great history, and I appreciate all of you being here to share it. Dr. Yvonne Hicks, Marsha Dean Phelts, Chris Hoffman, and Brittany Cohill. Thanks to all of you for being here today.
Thank you,
Anne.
Thank you.
And it just